All right, heli community. How many of you guys actually recognize this helicopter? How many of you guys potentially lusted over this while looking at your Tower Hobbies magazine during your childhood? Yep, this is the Kyosho EP Concept SR in all of its wretchedness. Um, so, just giving you that look before I take the canopy off. All right, done deal. Canopy off. Just as a reminder, milk jug stuff. This is literally like milk jug plastic. It's pretty durable, can get sun damage, and as you can see, chip a little bit, but little packing tape and you're good to go. It's 20 years old, over 20 years old. This thing's it's crazy, man. Love it. All right. And yeah, here she is with the top down. It's amazing. I mean, you know, this is like a time capsule here, guys. We've got old school mechanical rate gyro. We've got old school indirect drive servos. In fact, I think this is all stuff that came with this helicopter. Some new school stuff right here, brushless. I'm not going to go into too much details or a huge rant, but this is just an RC car 540 can motor here, 9 turn, whatever. Just had it laying around. Contronic, guys. Contronic normally does everything perfect. I just happened to have, pick this up really inexpensively, but now I remember why everyone said to avoid the smile, because it would do the exact opposite of its name for its end user. It's just not a good speed control. No way, not at all. Definitely, first of all, something's up whenever you don't even have a capacitor and a brushless speed control. Always question that. That ain't right, especially for something like this. So I added one. I go into why, but you know what? Just if your speed control or you see one that's for a high power application, not have a capacitor, there's something going on, guys. This has a very difficult time starting this motor. I can't even use governor mode. It does weird, crazy things that really jolts the gearbox. Eventually it starts to work, but I just don't want to damage this thing. So I run it in airplane mode. I can work through the funk. But anyways, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't have enough RPM with this, I'd probably be using this because I trust this setup, this is actually a really good speed control. Nice and smooth. It's Jetty JES 300. Heli speed control. Here. It's really good speed control. This is good stuff right here. A little inefficient, but you know what? This is actually a good motor setup for an Echo 8. Anyways, if it wasn't for the fact that that motor actually had the RPMs, I'd probably replace this whole thing. It's just not happy with it. I'm not happy with that. Anyways, Contronic, you're usually perfect, but this is where you failed. Sorry. Maybe they had the new guy make it or something. I don't know what was up with that. All right, and so I got another one of these indirect drive servos here, originals. That's the elevator servo, and to give my G155 gyro a fighting chance, I paired it up with this. It was one of those indirect drive servos, but I paired it up with this thing. I just happened to have it laying around. It's a little bit faster. It's a digital coreless servo. It's a rudder servo, airplane rudder, but it's I believe these indirect drive servos, the ones that I was originally talking about, they're super slow. It's like way in the 0.2 something range. This is about 0.19. I mean, normally for rudder servo, we're looking for something in the 0.0 some number speed range. Anyways, that's what I had. It's better than what was there, so decided to use it. Let's go down the tail. I believe that's original tape. It's kind of crazy. Holding the little control rod, tail pitch control rod, if you will. Let's look at the tail rotor. I want to point something out real quick. One of the problem areas for this particular helicopter is tail pitch lighter is very, very fragile. Specifically the little tube that held the pin that went to this little control arm here. So what I did to fix that was I took a nylon bolt, bored it out, put it over that little tube, like to strengthen it, and then from there screwed. This is like a rotor head screw from I think it's a 450 size helicopter. I screwed it up in there, and yeah, way stronger than it was. But other than that, you know what? It works. It does work. It's a little sloppy, but hey, it works. All right, let's go back to the chassis here. Take a look at the rotor head a little bit. I won't spend too much time. Just want to point this out. Very sloppy rotor head. But there's a lot going on here. This is not CCPM. The swash plate doesn't move up and down. So here, I'm not going to talk about that too much. Just going to go ahead and turn it on and show you guys. Well, first, you hear that? Yeah, that's the gyro, man. That's that rotating mass in the mechanical gyro spinning up, and then basically it sits on a gimbal, and then whenever you move the helicopter, the gimbal rotates sort of like that. And that gets translated to the servo. And here, let's go ahead and show that real quick. See that? Isn't that crazy? It freaking works, man. And it actually flies quite well. It does what it needs to do. So to set it up, all you have to do to set it up is you dial in some pitch on the tail so that you have enough pitch to kind of counteract the majority of the torque from the main motor. From there, you dial in the gain so that you have enough gain to keep it pretty much still. And yeah, it flies pretty good as long as you're flying it like an airplane. It doesn't have very consistent rate control to the left or to the right, but you can deal with that if you're a good enough pilot. Feel thing. I don't have too much problem with it. All right, so I think the best way to show this is on this side because you have a clearer view of the collective pitch system. So let's get a couple things out of the way first. Simple stuff. Elevator. So that's being controlled by a servo up front. You can see it there. Aileron or roll. You can see the servo right there, single servos. And then I'm going to do the collective pitch, and yeah, the swash plate is not going to move. That thing in the center is going to move. So here, I don't know how I'm going to get this. I think that's going to be close enough right there. But you can kind of see this slider thingy going up and down. That's actually being controlled by there's a rod running up like a channel in the main shaft. You can kind of see it there. But that little white thing in there is connected to a little metal rod that travels up and down the main shaft. It's connected to that thing there, and with all of that, you're able to, here, let's back out a little bit, and change the blade pitch. It's pretty cool. Very busy, but pretty cool. And overall, it's different. You don't have to deal with CCPM interaction, but you do have to deal with a lot of additional mechanics, which is more places for slop. But yeah, overall it flies. It's cool. It's a blast in the past sort of deal, and you got to think about what we had back in the day. So here, let's just kind of position this back over here. I'm going to shut it off because I think my little backup battery is going dead. Listen to that. Freaking wind down of the mechanical gyro. That's crazy. Cannot believe that actually worked. But so back in the day, what were your choices, right? You had this thing, EP Concept SR. It was actually the Concept EP, and then from there, that was, I think, a little bit more high-end. The main shaft was a little bit lower. I guess to allow it to be a little more agile. Took in micro or mini servos, if you will. And so it was a little bit more, I guess, more catered to the high end, higher performance, if you will. This is they made this a little bit easier. The main shaft's a little bit taller to mitigate any type of issues, that would mitigate boom strikes, if you will. They also made it so you could put full-size servos because they're cheaper. So there's some cost stuff and just more beginner friendliness baked into this helicopter. But what were your choices? You had the EP Concept SR, or EP Concept. You had the Icarus Echo 8, which was my first helicopter, and I think flies better than this, but is not as durable. Actually, I'm not going to kid you guys. It flew way better than this thing, and it flew for way longer. This is way lighter. Then you also had the Cult Whisper, and that is kind of in the same ballpark of this. It's like a less durable version of this. Same ridiculousness in the rotor head mechanics and and that all that. The Echo 8 allowed you to use CCPM, which was great, but the Cult Whisper and this were mechanically mixed. Then of course you've had the big dog, the Logo 20, and stuff from Mikado, but those are much bigger. So just talking about the 10 size helicopters and all of that stuff. Logo 20 was great, but back in the day you had to deal with PCM radios, with the big long antennas, guys. Most of you only think 2.4, and that's how it used to be. Nah, man, we had antennas and frequencies, and all that sucked. And all I remember with my Logo 20 was PCM lockout, crash in the ground. That was pretty much my experience with Mikado. I never really got to fly my Logo 20 very much because it was always just going into lockout and just crashing itself into the ground. Thank goodness it never crashed into anything of importance. But anyways, those were our choices really back in the day, and then things kicked off. I think the first real big change was I guess LiPo batteries, and then from there 2.4 radios, then from there flybarless, and then from there fully integrated control systems like you have now with the Mikado system, with their radio and flybarless system. And so it's just everything is so awesome now. And to think back in the day, your electronics made noise, dude, because they had a physical mass spinning in it, and now we've got super powerful batteries, super powerful brushless motor systems, just these amazing airframes. I don't even know where you can go with what we have now, but you can see how far we've come from this thing. But you know what? With all that said, I will say that for all the 3D and ridiculousness that I'll do with my big 90 size overpowered electric that I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have that are watching this, that's a level of fun. You get your heart rate going up, get to demonstrate your skill a little bit, play with your trick yo-yo if you want to think about it that way. But this thing has other ways of enjoyment. I mean, it's definitely challenging to fly. You have to respect it a lot more. Just flying it in a pattern, just to see it in the air and enjoy it, just to remind yourself, hey, we came from this. It is fun. You're in the air. You are flying. You are demonstrating your skill of control. And so there's still things you can do, practice with this if you want to. But yeah, for me, the whole purpose of me getting into this was specifically to see how terrible this would be. How terrible that would be. And you know what? That's not really even a thought in my head anymore. That thing actually was pleasantly, surprisingly good. The only thing that really disappointed me on this helicopter has nothing to do with the helicopter at all, except for this slop. But hey, it does fly, so I forgive it. It does fly. This disappointed me. Yes, Contronic, this thing right here is a big disappointment. You should give anyone that owns one of these things like a huge discount on one of your controllers, because that thing is terrible. But other than that, and that's not really a problem associated with this. It's just happened to be on this. But other than that, you know what? This is the history. This is what we dealt with back in the day, and I'm having fun with it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I call it. I don't know if I want to call it an overview or a rant or whatever, but enjoyed this video talking about this helicopter and maybe a little bit of the history of the hobby. With that said, you guys have a good day or night or whatever it is for you. Over and out. Peace.